Did you cash out on game 3 of the NBA Finals? Because I didn't. But today, we cash out on the WNBA. And why am I so confident? Well, stick around and you'll see.
Yeah, game day, showing up at practice, attack them, lace them up, get active, lights, camera, then action, found code, then cracked it, put in the work, come from the dirt, leg up on my comp like I was dirt. Is you with it, then trying to go get it, got momentum, then trying to go get it, I got children, I gotta go get it.
What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and today I'm going to take you through the most comprehensive WNBA video you have ever seen in your life. I'll go through all the key players, we'll talk about their matchups, their form lines, the things I like, the things I don't, and I do all this to help you make the best decisions possible when it comes to sports betting. I've also put my feelers out there, and I found one of the best WNBA cappers I have ever seen in my life. And thankfully, he's offered to help me out. So I'll be learning from him as we go. I'll be getting a few picks from him, which I'll be sharing with you. And the man that I'm talking about is none other than the Wiz of Sports. You may have seen him. This is his Instagram. Feel free to check it out. I've got a link to his Discord channel. You can join that. It's in the video link description below. But I'll call out what the bets are. Hell, I might even show one of his reels on the stream. But let's get into it, boys. All right, so this first matchup we're talking through is the Dallas Wings versus the Seattle Storm. The Wings, 7-point underdogs at the moment. Having a quick look at the Seattle Storm, playing really well right now. They've won 7 out of their last 8 games, so they're on fire. Key players to look to: Jewel Lloyd, Nyeka Ogwumike, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and Easy Magbagor. So we'll take a look at those girls. And for the Dallas Wings, man, they need a win. They've lost 5 consecutive games. They're 1-3 straight up at home this season. Key players from them: Arike Ogunbowale and Natasha Howard, Maddie Seagrease, and Monique Billings. Looking at the injury report, Natasha Howard, Satu Sabali, Jaylen Brown. The Seattle Storm don't have a single player on their injury report. In terms of the prediction, man, 7 points. Feels like a pretty big spread. The Storm, they have won and covered 8 of their last 10 games, though. The Wings, they've lost straight. Their defense is just getting worse. They're now 11th in points per game allowed, so they're giving up a whole lot, and they're 10th in defensive field goal percentage. So, yeah, I think I'd have to go with the Storm if I had to pick sides. I'd be leaning towards the Storm. So what that means, I'll probably be favoring them when I go through the player props. But let's get through it. The one thing I'm going to do is I've got a few plays already. I'll do what I possibly can to make it clear whether I've taken the bet as we go through the preview. Now, saddle up. Let's get through it. So we'll start with the Dallas Wings. We'll get with the road team first, and we'll hit on these key players. We'll start with Arike. Let's talk about it. Now, I have been taking a few bets on her as of late. Unfortunately, they have not been cashing because my girl's been putting up shots, but that's a whole lot of brickage going on. But let's talk about it. Her points prop, 24.5 in this game. She's cashed this in 5 or 10 games this season. She does average 26.4 points. She's taken a whole lot of shots. So her last game, she played 50 minutes against the Mercury. My Lord, only finished on 25 points. She shot the ball 27 times. So she's averaging 24 shot attempts per game. My Lord. I play basketball twice a week, and I don't shoot 27 times in a month. So she's getting busy. 9 3-point attempts on average, and 6 free throws. So very high usage rate, a lot of shots going up, but a lot of bad shots, right? So if you take a look at all of her games this season, the highest shot percentage she's had in a game is 46%. So 36% off a lot of shots, it's not great. It reminds me like a Allen Iverson. But what are my thoughts on this? The Seattle Storm, they're playing really good at the moment. They're 4th in terms of points allowed, so this is a tough matchup for Arike. What I've also got open is WNBA.com, and I'm just in their advanced stats. And in that, I can see how they defend certain players, matchups, and stuff like that. And if I take a look at the points prop for the Seattle Storm, yeah, they allow the 4th fewest points to guards as well. So the 4th fewest points overall, 4th fewest points to guards. Given her hit rate, it's 5 out of 10. We look at the head-to-head numbers, she has cashed this in 3 out of her last 4 against the Storm, but this is the first time she's seeing them this season. I don't put too much stock into the head-to-head form from previous years, so I would probably have to lean to the under on this one. Not a bet that I'm taking, hoping that's clear, but definitely I'd be leaning to the under. If we take a look at her assist prop, 5.5, she's cashed this in 4 out of her last 5, but 5 out of her last 10. So her last 5 games, the assists have been coming in. The Storm, though, third fewest assists allowed in the league. We don't have potential assist numbers for the WNBA yet. Hopefully that is coming. So we have to look at the raw data here. But 5.5, minus 140, though. The odds aren't great in head-to-head matchup. She's covered this in 2 out of her last 4. So there's nothing really compelling going on there. I would lean to the over, but at minus 140, not something that I'm interested in playing. Maybe if you're playing fantasy and all that type of stuff. Whoa, a bit of a coughing fit. If you're playing fantasy, it might be something that you want to look at. Rebounds, 4.5, 5 out of 10, 4.5 as an average. She's gone under her rebound line in 4 straight games against the Storm. The Storm sitting 6th in the league in terms of rebounds allowed. If I look at how they go against the position, the Storm, they're sitting in the middle of the pack. 6th in terms of rebounds allowed, and they allow the 3rd fewest assists. My goodness. And the 4th fewest points. So safe to say that this is a tough matchup for Enrique. One thing that I'd potentially be looking at here, if I could, because it's probably a lean to the under on most props, maybe outside of her assists, so points and rebounds. But let's look at PRAs. I'd probably be leaning to the PRA here on the under 35.5. If we look at this season, she's gone under in 6 out of her last 10 games, and this is a difficult matchup. And if you think about the team, she's gone over the Mercury in overtime, where she played 50 minutes. She went over. The Aces, she went over, but she had a great scoring game in that one. And the Mercury again, where she scored 40 points, but the Mercury stuck at defending guards. They too old. And the Sky, which is honestly a good performance. Sky, pretty gritty defensive team. That team, they only scored 74 points in that game, and she happened to score 35 of them. But outside of that, a lot of these other games, it ain't happening. And the other thing to mention, if you just look at her road games, sorry, she's at home. What am I talking about? Got this all mixed up. So at home, she's covered this in 3 out of 4 games, though. So there's a bit of a risk. Interesting. So at home, she scores quite well. I think she's covered her points line in every game at home this season. That switches it up a little bit, yeah. So she's covered this in every game at home. So I'll probably still lean to the under. That's only 4 games we're talking about. And, yeah. And the Storm, it's a tough matchup. So I'm not betting on this woman, but shit, I'll be sure to look at the home and away splits a little bit closely. So, look, given we started with the home team, we'll keep rolling with the home team. Let's talk about C Greased. Firstly, Outlier calling out the 3-pointers made prop. Overs at minus 270, though, but she does have a 70% hit rate, but only 1 in 4 against this opponent. If we look at her points, her line's at 13.5. She's cashed this in 5 out of her last 10, but her last 7 games have been pretty decent. 5 out of her last 7 games, she's gone over this points line. We spoke a bit about the Storm's defense. Let's just check her home split so I don't screw this up. 4 games at home, she's only covered this in 1 of them, right? So that's not great. If I quickly take a look at the matchup for forwards, let's see how the Storm are defending this position. The Storm, so they allow the 3rd fewest points to forwards, and they allow the 5th fewest points. So it's probably a mid rebound, the 5th fewest rebound. So probably a mid-tier matchup there. But yeah, so they're not strong on the points. If you wanted to bap it up, you could take it for 10. That looks like a pretty decent look. It's a wagon. It's hit in 3 out of 4 home games, and it's hit in 7 consecutive games for Maddie Seagrace to score 10 points. But her total line, not something that I necessarily want to dance with. The matchup's not great, but I think she'll get close. If we take a look at our rebounds line, 4.5. She's covered in 5 out of her last 10. She's gone under in 4 straight games against Seattle. Looking at her home splits, we can see she's gone over in 2 out of 4 games at home. And we spoke about the matchup. Seattle, 5th fewest rebounds to forwards. So there's nothing crazy about this one. So let's jump into the next one. Let's get to Monique Billings, shall we? So Monique Billings, her points line's at 11.5, minus 119 to the over. This season, she's covered this in 5 out of her last 9, averaging 12.6 in head-to-head matchups, 1 out of her last 3. So nothing real compelling there. Similar to Maddie, somewhat difficult matchup for the forwards, so I don't necessarily love her points prop. If we look at her rebounds, her line's at 9.5. My lord. So she's covered this in 5 out of her last 9 games, averaging 9.1. And if we look at a head-to-head split, she's covered this in 2 out of her last 3 games, so averaging 10 boards per game. If we break this down and look at just her games at home, this season, 3 games at home, she's covered this line once. So, yeah, 9.5. It seems a little bit too high for me, especially within the WNBA. There's probably a handful of girls who can get that. Monique Billings can, but, yeah, high ceiling, low floor means a lot of risk. And I'm not too close to the way that she plays. So, yeah, I'd probably take her for this if the matchup was great, but the matchup is not. So I shall pass on Monique Billings. And let's take a look at Tierra McCowan. So her points line is also at 11.5, minus 130 to the over. This season, 6 out of her last 10 games, averaging 12.6 points per game. She's played the Storm twice, and she's covered this line in both games, 12 and 16 points. She got about 26 minutes in those games. This season, she's getting 27.8 minutes. Last game in overtime, she did get 36 minutes, but that's an outlier. So you can probably book her in for about 26 to 7 minutes at the center, though. So it's quite rare that you find centers in the WNBA. There is a lot of forwards and a lot of guards, but let me run the numbers on centers real quick for the Storm. In terms of points allowed, the Storm, yeah, they allow the 4th fewest points to centers, and they middle of the pack, 6th in terms of rebounds allowed to centers. So, yeah, the matchup for rebounds are not bad. Points, yeah, it's not the worst, but it's not a great matchup either. So, matchup and probably not going to play a factor here. If you look at her volume, she's averaging 9.5 attempts. She did take 14 in the last game in OT, but prior to that, I would say her volume has been quite low. But she can get to the free throw line, but she does shoot them at 72%. Yeah, I'm not overly excited by Tierra McCowan's lines. And if we take a look at her rebound, she's cashed 4 out of her last 10, 8.8 as an average this season. And her 4 games at home, 3 out of the 4 games she's gone over, which is a positive sign. So she's got pretty strong rebound numbers at home this season. If we take a look at the head-to-head matchup, 2 games against the Storm, 6 and 9 boards. So again, the matchup's not great, but she is capable, but this form is quite inconsistent. So to take the over 8.5, when you average an 8.8, but your average is lifted by 13, 14, and 15, 1 game with 9, but she played a lot more minutes than she normally does. Look, I'd probably lean to the under here, but it's another bet that I don't want to play. So for Dallas, probably the one that I like the most, it could be Arike's unders in her PRA. But let's jump into the Seattle Storm because there's a couple players that I do like within this game, within this team. Let's start with Skylar Diggins, shall we? All right, the first thing I want to call out here, very obvious. A whole lot of green on this damn screen. So this is a bet that I'm going to be taking, the over 15.5 points. Now, she's cashed this in 7 out of her last 10 games. She's cashed this in 6 out of her last 7. So you girls coming on strong. Dallas allow the 2nd most points in this whole league. So the matchup is great. I'm just running the numbers now to see where they rank in terms of points allowed to guards. And the Wings, they sit in the bottom 4 in terms of points allowed to guards. They sit in the bottom 3 when it comes to assists allowed to guards. And they sit in the bottom 2 when it comes to rebounds allowed. They sit in the top 2 in terms of rebounds allowed. They don't allow many rebounds to guards, but they do give up a lot of assists, a lot of points. So defensively, not great, especially to the guard position. So Skylar Diggins-Smith, I do like this. I'm betting the over. Very efficient shooter. Her minutes are very, very consistent. 12.9 attempts, 40% from the field, 79% from the line. The volume is nice, though, because you need 15.5 points. She's averaging almost 13 shots. So I do like that. Her average on the season, 14.9. But that's really pulled down from these shocking games here. 10, 8, 2, and 7 for the most part. It's looking really nice. So I do like that. So we're betting the over in her points. Might even sprinkle a bit on her to get 20. Who knows? But Skylar Diggins-Smith, do like the points there. If we look at her assist prop, 5.5, minus 130. She's cashed this in 6 out of her last 12 games this season, averaging 5.75. We know the matchup is nice when it comes to assists. We don't have the potential assist numbers, so which makes assists a little bit difficult to bet on. She does bounce up and down on this thing. I wouldn't bet her assists on its own, but you could look at points plus assists to see, do the strong assist games make up for any games where she's gone under? So points plus assists, it's 7 out of 12. Points, it's 8 out of 12. So for Skylar Diggins-Smith, points prop, definitely the way to go. Over 15.5 points. It's close to plus money. Get on it, boys. That's something that I'm on, and that's something my friend the Wiz is on too. Next up, we're looking at Jewel Lloyd. She's a good player, but every time I bet on her, she goes under. So it's frustrating for me, but let's talk about it. 12 games this season. She's covered this line of 20.5 in 6 of those games, averaging 20.3 points per game. She scored 21 points in the last game. Her line was at 21.5, and I know that because I bet on it. We know that the matchup is great. We know in head-to-head matchups against Dallas, she scored 30-plus points in 4 consecutive games. My Lord. The one thing I factor in here is Skylar Diggins-Smith was not on the team or did not play in these games, I believe. So safe to expect a little bit less, but the matchup is great for Jewel Lloyd. She should get some buckets in this game. My question is, will she get enough to cover this line? So because I'm betting on Skylar Diggins-Smith, I'm not taking a bet here on Jewel Lloyd, but if I had to, I'd lean to the over on her points. If we take a look at her assist, 3.5, not very high. 5 out of 12 games she's hit this on. 3.5 is her average this season. She's gone under in 3 straight games, though, and in head-to-head matchups, 2 out of her last 4. So another game with another one where the matchup is nice. If you've seen my NBA videos, I do a lot of bitch or beast plays. Jewel Lloyd, when it comes to her assists, the bitch or beast play could be on. If you're going to take the over, don't take her for 4. Take her for 5 or 6, because it looks like if she's going over, 6 is the magic number. So, yeah, no bet on her assist prop for me. Take a look at her rebounds, 5.5 boards. She's covered this in 8 of the last 12, 4 consecutive games, though. The challenge here is that, Dallas, tough matchup. 3rd fewest rebounds allowed. They do allow the 2nd fewest rebounds to guards. And if you look at how they've performed in head-to-head matchups, she's gone under 5.5 rebounds in all 4 games against them. And in those games, she played almost 38 minutes. This season, she's getting less, almost 35 minutes as an average. So for her rebounds, I probably lean to the under, despite the 4 strong games she has had rebounding the ball. Not a bet that I'm taking, but that's the way that I'm leaning right now. All right, the next person we're going to look at is Nyeka. I don't know how to say her surname, and I don't want to keep butchering it. So we'll go with Nyeka for this one. Now, Nyeka points line at 17.5. This season, she's only played 9 games, had a few injuries. 5 of 9 games she's covered. She's averaging 18.2. She scored 26 points in her last game against the Sparks. She did that in only 29 minutes, so she dominated them. Prior to that, though, 4 games where she underdelivered. If we think about the matchup, just let me fiddle around and get the forward position back up. Dallas Wings, we know that they're weak everywhere, but they do give up the 4th most points to forwards. When it comes to assists, they give it the 3rd most assists, and when it comes to rebounds, they're actually pretty good. The 2nd fewest rebounds to forwards. So let's take a look at Nyeka and see where we go. So in that last game, she scores 26 points, breaks out of this slump. What changes? She shoots 73% from the field, which is wild. She does shoot 60% on average, but 73% with high volume of 15 shots, 3 or 4 free throws. So the averages on the season is 13 attempts and 60% from the field. I guess I'd probably lean to the under on this one. That's the way that I'd be thinking. The under is on. I think the line may have moved up a little bit too much after this strong effort. But let's have a quick look at her rebound. 7.5 board. She's hit this in 5 out of her last 9. 7.6 is an average. I forgot to check her splits. Let me check the splits real quick. In away games, she no good on the road. On the road, she's averaging 15.4. So I'm leaning to the under there. If we look at her rebounds, I said 5 and 9. Rebounds on the road, where's she at? 2 out of 5. So she's averaging 7.8 rebounds. 2 strong games. But we got to keep in mind here, she does have a difficult matchup. So, we'll just check my comms with the man Wiz. And, look, I think he's got it as one of his leans as well, one of his plays. So I'm going to ride with him. Take an under Nyeka in her points, under her rebounds. Either of those are good. You can just look at points plus rebounds and take the under in that if you want to. And if we just look at her points plus rebounds on the road, she's gone under in 4 straight games, 23.2 as an average. So yeah, I do like the under for Nyeka. Feel free to tell if you're interested. Who else we got? Let's go easy motherfucking E. All right, easy. 12.5 is her line. She's played 12 games this season. She's covered this line in 8 of them, averaging 13.1 in head-to-head matchup. She's covered this in 4 straight games against Dallas. If we look at her numbers on the road this season, she's been pretty decent. 4 out of her last 7. She does average 12 on the road. Minutes-wise, 35 minutes, close to 10 attempts. Only 42% from the field, though, so that's a very low percentage for a big. Does shoot her free throws quite well. So, yeah, the concern for me is the volume is nice, but her shot percentage, not the greatest. Not going to lie. So just having a look at how she scores her points real quick so I can get a sense of this whole thing. So she scores a lot of points on putbacks. She should take a lot of shots near the rim, to be honest. So she just shoots a very poor percentage. So that's not great. So I don't like the look of the points, regardless of how the graph looks. The percentages have scared me off. But looking at her rebounds, 8.5, 7 out of her last 12, 9.4 as an average. If we look at her rebounds on the road, she's covered this in 3 out of 7 games on the road. So that ain't great. If I muck around with the filters, we take a look at centers against Dallas, and what do we find? Dallas, they give up the 4th most points. In terms of assists, they give up the 4th most assists. And if we look at the rebounds, 4th fewest rebounds to centers. So they're not giving up too many rebounds to many positions. So, yeah, probably have to pass on that. But looking at this game, I do like the over on Skylar Diggins. And my second favorite play would probably be the unders in Nyeka and the under in Enrique. So that's what I'm thinking. Let me know in the comment section if this is making sense to y'all. Let's get into the next one. Pumping the brakes real quick to let you know that I've got a new partnership with a new DFS app. So Dark Previews is now partnered up with Rebet. Now, there's a few things I love about Rebet. The first thing is the availability. Now, a lot of you guys in the US, you're asking questions, what books do I use? Or that's not available in my state. Well, the great thing about Rebet is they're available in 46 out of 50 states. I'll put a picture up, see if it's your state. Fuck it. Just open up the app and check it that way. It's probably quick up at 46 out of 50 states. You can get Rebet. Now, on top of that, you know how these DFS apps are. They're going to give you a deposit match if you sign up with the code DAFT when you check it out. They'll give you up to 100 Rebet cash in free play, so feel free to check that out. Rebet available in 46 out of 50 states, and you get deposit matches. Feel free to jump on. The great thing that I love about these new apps that keep coming out, when they come out, the lines are initially a little bit soft, which means it's a lot easier for you to win cash. So feel free, check out Rebet, sign up with the code DAFT. You'll get $100 deposit match. Let's go. All right, so in this next game, we're looking at the Indiana Fever versus the Atlanta Dream. Caitlin Clark and the Fever, 3-point underdogs in this game. The Dream looking for a win to get over 500. They're 3-1 straight up on the road this season. Key players, Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard, Tina Charles, and Chan Pakatias. For the Indiana Fever, look, things are tough. 3-10 so far this season. They're 1-4 straight up at home. Key players, obviously, CC, Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Nalissa Smith, and Aaliyah Boston. Key players that we're going to take a look at. A few injuries for the Fever, but nothing new in terms of how this game plays out. Look, the Dream have had better success this season, so fair enough that they are the favorites, but let's not go pretend that they're a good basketball team. They just lost to the winless Mystics, believe it or not. And the Fever, I think they're going to show signs of improvement. They should get better throughout the season. They've won 2 out of their last 4 games. And at some point, they have to start playing better at home. The Dream, their offense is not great. They're 11th in offensive scoring, dead last in offensive field goal percentage. It's a winnable game for the Fever, but the main thing for me is this game should be close. I don't like blowouts. They absolutely kill my bankroll. So hopefully we're able to avoid one of those in this game. But let's talk about these player props, shall we? Let's get the road team right. It is the Atlanta Dream, so we shall start there. First play that I'm looking at for the Atlanta Dream, I'll let you know that this is a bet. Brought to you by the Wizard Sports and Daft Previews. Alicia Gray. Now, Alicia Gray, points line, 15.5 points. This season, Alicia Gray's covered this in only 5 out of her last 10. She's averaging 15.3 points per game. 11 field goals attempts on average, 5 of those being 3-pointers, where she shoots 45% from the field, though. Now, if you look at how she's played against the Fever, she's covered in 3 out of her last 4, but she's yet to verse the Fever this season. Now, the one thing I already know about the Fever this season, they don't defend guards well at all. So you can see it here on outline of the matchup. Fever ranked last in terms of points allowed. So the Dream, their offense may suck, but the Fever, their defense is probably just as bad. So the opportunities are going to be there. If I take a look at, I guess, the Fever and how they defend guards, where do they rank, and what do we see? So the Fever, they do allow the most points to guards. That's an issue, but that's good for Alicia Gray. They do allow the second most assists to guards, and when it comes to rebounds, they sit in the bottom 4, so the 4th most rebounds. So in terms of matchups for points, rebounds, and assists for a lot of these guards, it's a good look. So Alicia Gray, we've seen her ceiling. She's capable of scoring 20. She has had some slower games against stiffer opposition. That's fair enough. Connecticut Sun, everybody struggles against them. But this Fever team, they're giving up buckets. So Alicia Gray, I do like the over 15.5. I'm taking it. If you download a rebet and I got WNBA on there, feel free to add Alicia Gray to the slip, baby. So I do like the over 15.5. Could see myself sprinkling 20 points on it. Let's see how excited I get. If you want to know what my final picks are after all this research and analysis is done, feel free to check out my Winnable. I'll leave a link to that in the video description below, and I'll put it in the pinned comment for you. But I do like the over in her points. The matchup is excellent. You could also look at her 3-pointers made prop. It's 1.5. She's cashed this in 6 out of 10 games. She's only hit this in 2 out of the 4 games against Indiana, though. But at the same time, they do give up a whole lot of threes. The 3rd most threes in the league. And if we look at how many they give up to guards, 3rd most threes to guards as well. So the matchup is good. 3 points are a good look. I do like the points a little bit more. If we take a look at her rebounds, though, 3.5 boards, 5 out of 10. She's averaging 3.5 this season. Fever, this is still a good matchup, but I can't lie to you guys. I think the points, that's the way to go. That's the best matchup, best play for Alicia Gray. So that's what I'm locking in. The next one I want to talk through is Ryan Howard. Now, Ryan Howard, I did take a bet on her yesterday. My man Josh from Land You Bet You led me astray. You sold out. I'm just kidding. I thought your video was great. You liked her assist. I liked it too. I backed it, and she got nothing. But let's talk about her points. 15.5 points for Ryan Howard. 5 out of her last 10 games, averaging 15.2. She does have a good matchup as well. She has crushed the Fever in the past. 4 consecutive games, she's gone to the over. And I'd say, look, maybe a very similar look to Alicia Gray. So the good thing with Alicia Gray, if we think about how she scores, a lot of points above the break. The Fever sit in the bottom 4 in defending that position. They're very, very weak at defending the corners. Alicia Gray, bit of points from the corners. When I look at Ryan Howard, a lot of points above the break as well. She gets into the lane, but less corner threes. So in terms of how these teams play, I think Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray have a great matchup here. I think they're both a good look. I went with Alicia Gray. But another look that could be good is Ryan Howard's assist. So she just laid an egg, 0 in that last game. But she was coming off a game of 10 and 5. So we know that the potential is there. She can get busy. The matchup is excellent. Ryan Howard for assists. I'd lean to the over for that, that's for sure. Taking a quick look at her rebounds, 5 out of her last 10, 4.9, 2 out of 4 against the Fever. I don't want to fuck with this. This is all over the place for me. So what I'm going to try to do with the WNBA, I'm going to find the best matchups possible and good players in those matchups. Bet it that way. So that's Ryan Howard. Who else we got? Let's talk about Tina Charles. So Tina Charles, I'm pretty sure she had a really good game in her last outing. So let's double check this. All right. So this season she's played 10 games. She's covered 12.5 points in 4 of those games. She had 12 points in the last game. Just fell short of this line. If we take a look at minutes, 29 minutes, 11 field goals attempted. At center, what now the favorite defending centers? They're getting torched by guards, that's for sure. If we have a look at run the centers filter, the Fever, of course, allow the most points to centers. They actually pretty good defend in terms of rebounds. But the one thing about the center stat with the WNBA, there's not that many centers. There's probably like 5 or 6 true centers in the WNBA. So this stat can be a little bit blown out. But let's get back to Tina Charles. So I probably lean to the over on this one. I'd normally say that this is quite inconsistent, but volume was nice in the last game. Percentage is a little bit low at 43%. Needs to get to the free throw line to get buckets. In the Fever, they allow the third most free throws to centers. So I think Tina Charles can get to the line here, dominate inside, and ultimately cover this line. If we look at her rebound line, 8.5. She's covered this in 5 of 10. She's averaging 9.1. In terms of how the Fever go, actually I just looked at it. Sitting in the middle of the pack in terms of rebounds allowed to centers. Yeah, I think it's really just a good matchup for a lot of people. So Tina Charles, I do lean to the over on that. Rebounds, points and rebounds, 21.5. I think the over in that is a nice play too. Cheyenne Parkatias, have a quick look here. What do we see? Point sign, 10.5. She's hit this in only 3 games in her last 10. That's not great, but she does average 10.4. In head-to-head matchup, she's covered this in 4 straight games against the Fever. So everyone was putting it on the Fever last season by the looks of it. If I quickly put the forward filter on and we take a look at how the Fever defend forwards, and they do give up the most points to forwards. They give up the second most rebounds, and they give up the most assists to forwards. So I really think it's time to eat on these player props. But I think she goes over her points line, but it's not something I want to bet given how often she goes under it. Her rebounds, the line's at 5 out of 10. So you're looking at a 50% hit rate. Head-to-head, she ate them alive last season. She get 28 minutes per game in those. This season, she's getting 22.5. So I think throw away the head-to-head form. I changed my mind. I'd probably lean to the under in her points. She ain't doing this anymore. And I'd lean under to her rebounds. But yeah, quite a few bets already have on this bloody team, so I don't want to take any more. But let's talk about the Fever. Started with Caitlin Clark. Her points line, 17.5. This season, she's covered it in 6 of 13 games, averaging 16.3 points per game. She's coming off a 10-point game against the Sun, but everybody struggles against them, so I'm not overly concerned by that. In terms of Atlanta, they're pretty much middle of the pack in terms of points allowed. If I get the guard filter out and we go by points, the Atlanta Dream, sitting 5th in terms of ranking there. Rebounds, the Dream 7th, middle of the pack, and assists, the Dream 8th. So still close to the middle. So the matchup for Caitlin Clark is not the most difficult one, but it's not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. I can see her having a good game here, but I can also see her sucking. But at home, could be different. What's she done at home? 5 games at home. She's covered this line twice. So Caitlin Clark's points, I don't necessarily have a lean on. I'd pass on it. Her assists, 5.5 is the line. She's hit this in 9 of 13 games, averaging 6. The Dream, they do give up some assists, though. Bottom 4 in terms of assists allowed. Probably the only weak point that they have, I guess, for guards. But her assist numbers do look pretty good. If we look at her games at home, 5 games at home, she's covered this line in 4 of them, averaging 6.4 assists. So I'd probably most definitely lean to the over here. And I think the Fever are going to keep this game close. And if the Fever are keeping this game close, it's probably going to be a higher scoring game because I don't think it's their defense that keeps them in it. But I'd lean to the over in Caitlin Clark assists. Not sure whether I play it, but that's definitely a lean of mine. Rebounds, over 4.5. She's cashed this in 8 of 13 games. Middle of the pack in terms of the matchup, so it's not the most difficult one. She's yet to verse this team, so we've got no historical form. For Caitlin Clark, I might lean to the over. Actually, I've got no leans on the board. So for Caitlin Clark, I'd only be looking at her assist prop. I don't necessarily like the others. Let's talk about Aaliyah Boston. So Aaliyah Boston, her points line is at 11.5. She has covered this in 6 of 13 games this season, averaging 10.6 points. in head-to-head matchups against the Dream. She's covered this in 3 out of 4. Did quite well last season, 28 minutes, 13.3 attempts. This season, she's getting 10 attempts in 28 minutes. So less minutes, less opportunities this season. So you can't overly rely on last season's form. So in terms of her points, I've got no real lean on that. If we look at her rebound, 7.5. She's hit this in 4 of 13 games. In terms of the matchup, middle of the pack once again. And in head-to-head matchup, she's hit this in her last 2 against them. So 2 out of 4. But yeah, given the hit rate, I'd probably lean to the under here. But with not with too much confidence. So I have to pass on any bets on Aaliyah Boston. And the last one, we'll look at Kelsey Mitchell and Nalissa Smith. So her points line, Kelsey Mitchell, 15.5. She has covered this in 7 out of 10 games, averaging 16.1, 8 of 13 this season, averaging 14.6. So a slow start in her first 2 games. Bit of an adjustment, but she didn't get too many minutes. Her last game against Connecticut, she only got 20 minutes. She's averaging 29 minutes per game. 13.6 attempts, 38% from the field. In head-to-head matchups against Atlanta, 2 out of her last 4. I guess a similar look for Caitlin Clark. Can't say that she doesn't have a great matchup for points, but she is very consistent, right? So she has covered this line quite well. If we break down just her home games, it doesn't get much better. 2 out of 5, 13.8 at home. So that's not terrific. So I have to pass on Kelsey Mitchell there. 3-pointers made, 1.5. So you'd lean to the over. The hit rate on that is great, but the odds, minus 178, I'm not too keen on. So I have to pass on Kelsey Mitchell. We then have Nalissa Smith. I did bet on Nalissa Smith in the last game, and she did nothing. So what are my thoughts today? 13.5 points for Nalissa Smith. She's hit this in 4 of 13 games. 2 points in that last game where I bet on her. Me, the idiot. Rubbish. She only got 19 minutes. 1 of 6. Ugh, rubbish. Trash. But let's not get too emotional about it. Looking at matchups. Forwards against the Dream. The Dream, 5th in terms of points allowed. 9th. So they give up the 4th most rebounds. So the rebounds could be a good look. And assists. So rebounds and assists they give up. Points-wise, they're pretty good at locking them down. So, yeah, look, given how she's made me feel and how inconsistent she is, I'd probably lean to the under. Difficult matchup. If we look at her rebounds, though, she does have a good matchup, but 8.5 is quite high. She's hit this in 5 of 13 games this season. She's averaging 7 boards, but her line's at 8.5. It is a nice matchup. In head-to-head matchup, she's hit this in 2 out of 3. Very strong rebounding games against the Dream in the past. Let's look at her home games this season. She's hit this in her last 2, but prior to that, sucking. But in her last 2 games, she's been getting a whole lot more minutes. But yeah, I've got no real. I lean to the over for her boards, but not a bet that I'm willing to take because I'm all up in my feelings. So for this particular game, Caitlin Clark assists, Alicia Gray points. I'd say Ryan Howard points as well. Tina Charles points and rebounds. I think they're all good looks. But yeah, let's jump into the next one, shall we? We've got the Aces at the Mercury. So for this game, the Mercury is 6.5-point dogs in this one. The Aces, 3-game losing streak at the moment. They're 2-2 straight up on the road this season. Key players, Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, and Tiffany Hayes. For the Mercury, they've been playing all right. They've won 3 out of their last 4 games. They're 4-1 straight up at home this season. Key players are Kalia Cooper, Brittany Griner, Natasha Cloud, and Diana Taurasi. So I'll take a look at all them in terms of the prediction and how do we see this one going. Well, I think the Vegas Aces, they're the better team on paper. If Chelsea Gray is playing in this game, so I need to double check that. Is Chelsea Gray playing? She's questionable, I believe. But their defense has been pretty trash. They lost 3 straight games, 3-7 covering the spread this season. They've also failed to cover in 9 of their last 11 games where they're favored by more than 6 points. So the Mercury will probably cover in this line is how I predict it. Brittany Griner's back now too. So that could really support them. I'll probably lean to the Mercury to cover, and what that means is this game's probably been close. And if the game's close, we should see a lot more points, rebounds, and assists for all the girls that we choose to take. I'm just checking RotoWire right now because I wonder if there's been any changes. And Chelsea Gray still a game time decision, so still questionable in this game. Let's see where we land. So the Aces are the team on the road. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Asia Wilson first because, man, I like her game. She's nice. Her points line, 26.5 in this game. She has covered this in 8 out of her last 10. She's covered this in 7 consecutive games. She's averaging 28.3 points. In terms of the matchup, the Mercury, they give up a lot of points. Giving up a whole lot. Third most points they give up. In terms of forwards, where do the Mercury sit? They sit in the bottom 3. Third most points allowed to forwards. Whilst we're here, let's talk about it. 5th most rebounds and 2nd most assists. So the matchup, not necessarily a difficult one here for Asia Wilson, but she does have a somewhat difficult matchup. I think she'll be battling with Brittany Griner in this one, so could potentially slow her down. But from all accounts, Asia Wilson's the best player in the league right now. But look, that I'm not sure of. Let me know in the comment section who is the best player in the WNBA. Is it Asia Wilson? Because that's what I heard. Let me know if you do watch it. But yeah, based off these numbers, how do you not look at the over, right? Let's check her games on the road. Four games on the road this season, averaging 31 points on the road. Let's go. So that could be a good look. I don't mind that. If we take a look at her assists, what's her assist line at? Because the matchup's good there. 1.5, minus 325 though. I'll have to pass on that. But yeah, definitely take the over in her assists. The odds just aren't great for it. And if we take a look at her rebounds, 10.5. The matchup's not the greatest here for Asia Wilson. It's not a difficult one, don't get me wrong. The Mercury's still in the bottom 5 in terms of rebounds allowed to forwards, but she's going to be battling down there. Brittany, no slouch. Her line's at 10.5, 6 out of her last 10. She's gone under in 2 straight. And if we look at her 4 games on the road, she's hit this in 2 out of 4. 15, 9, 12, and 8. The game should be close, so she should get a full complement of minutes. She's hit this in 3 out of her last 6 against the Mercury as well. But we don't know if Brittany was playing in those games, right? Like, she was detained for quite some time. So Asia Wilson, I probably like her points out of all her props. The rebounds, I probably lean to the under. The assists, yeah, lean to the over on that for sure. But at those odds, not one that I am willing to take. Let's talk about Jackie Young, and I like her game too. Reminds me a lot of myself. Smallest player on the court. Getting swifty with it. Now, let's just quickly check the matchup real quick. Mercury. So the Mercury, they give it the 5th most points to guards. They give it the most assists to guards. And they give up the 5th most rebounds to guards. So let's talk about Jackie Young, because I know that she can fill up a stat sheet. 16.5 points is her line. She's hit this in 6 out of 9 games this season. Last 2 games, very slow. Minutes are low, 27.6 and 22 minutes. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned around that. But thankfully, I got a plug for this. So a man could potentially give me a steer on what he's thinking on how this game goes. I think based off these numbers, that she should get back to a full complement of minutes. So the over is a good look. The over 16.5. The matchup's not too difficult. The head-to-head form is fantastic. 5 out of her last 6 games against the Mercury, she's cash, averaging 18.8. So Jackie Young over on the points, I think is a good look. Let's take a look at her assist. 5.5, 6 out of 9 games this season, averaging 6.6. Give me that. I already called out the Mercury give up the most assists to point guard, so I like the over for Jackie Young already. So feel free to take that. Jackie Young in head-to-heads. 3 out of the 6. 2 games this season, though. 6 and 8 assists. So Jackie Young filling up the stat sheet. Hopefully we get to see more of that. Let's just check her assists on the road. 3 out of her last 10 on the road. But this season on the road, 3 games, 2 out of 3. So pretty strong for Jackie Young. Let's take a look at her rebounds. 4.5. She's cashed this in 6 out of 9 games. The 2 out of the 3 games she went unders where she got a reduced minutes. So if she's playing a full complement of minutes, I think she's going over. Check this out. Her 3 road games this season, 5, 6, and 6 over. So I think the PRA is probably a good look for Jackie Young. If you're looking at, if I lean to the over in every single prop, I think the PRA is a great look. In head-to-heads, check the boards against them. She's covered this in 3 out of her last 6. But again, if you've got this season's data and last season's data, throw last season's shit away. This season, 7 and 8 boards for Jackie Young. I might even take the over in everything because that's looking nice. Jackie Young, great numbers there. Only question is, does she get her 4 minutes? I hope she does because I'm going to bet this. Jackie Young, take it. All right, next up, let's go Kelsey Plum. So her points line, 18.5 in this game. She's hit the over in 6 out of 10 games, 18.7 as an average. If we look at the head-to-head numbers, she's covered in 4 out of her last 6. So the 2 games she's played against them this season, 19 and 27 points. So Kelsey Plum played quite well. So this is probably another one I'd lean to the over, have a strong game. Minutes, looking pretty sweet, 37 minutes. A lot of attempts. Percentages aren't great, but the volume is nice. If we look at her assist, 5.5 for Kelsey Plum. 3 out of 10, that's not nice. Not nice at all. And if you look at head-to-head, 1 out of 6. So no surprise to see the unders at minus 150, though. So the over, minus 148. So definitely all these numbers are calling out the under. It just comes down to, do you want to pay that much for it? So, yeah, I'll probably have to pass on that for Kelsey Plum, but I think the points prop is pretty decent. There's probably better out there, but it ain't bad. And who else we got? Alicia Clark doesn't have any lines up. No, let's get to this Mercury. Let's start with Brittany Griner. So Brittany Griner is one of the picks that the Wiz of Sports has put out. Look, instead of me re-explaining the whole thing, I'll just put up one of his Instagram reels right now and let him explain it to you.
Welcome to day 10 of our Sweet FL series, where we bet 10 cents for every degenerate follower on a WNBA multi for them to do Sweet FL. Day 9 was a bust, but we're still $1,400 in profit for the series, so the spuds have been paying off. For day 10, we're going from America's sweetheart, Caitlin Clark, to someone who hates America, Brittany Griner. In saying that, we are going to take my boy Larry Fitzgerald to go under 17.5 points and under 6.5 rebounds. Let's hope she gets locked up on the court like she did in Russia. Let's boom.
All right, so there's Brittany Griner. We're taking the under in her points, under in her rebounds. I think the key call out there to make on Brittany Griner is the fact that she played a whole lot of minutes in that last game. Let's check that out. Double OT. She scored 24 points. She had 9 boards. She played 38 minutes. So she only expected to get 28 to 30 minutes in this game. So heaps of extra opportunity. It looks like these lines have moved up too high. So yeah, liking the under for Brittany Griner. I'm riding with the Wizard Sports. Let's go. Next up, let's talk about Kahleah Copper. Now, I took her under in the last game, I believe, and she smashed it. So she proved me wrong, that's for sure. So in terms of her points line, looking at 21.5. She's cashed this in 5 of 12 games this season, averaging 24 points. 34 and 29 points in her last 2 games, 44 minutes in that last game, but she should get at least 32. If you look at the head-to-head numbers, only 3 out of 7 against the Aces, but did play them twice this season, 19 and 37 points, both of those games on the road. Now that they're back at home, let's check out the home numbers, and she's been all right. 3 out of 5, averaging 27.2 points per game at home. So I do like that. If I check out the Aces and where they sit, the Aces, middle of the pack in terms of points allowed to guards, 5th fewest assists, and they actually give up the most rebounds to guards, believe it or not. So let's stick to the points for now. I do like the over for Kahleah Copper points. Let's jump to her rebounds, knowing that the matchup is nice. 6 out of 12 games, she's covered this line in 4.5 as an average. In head-to-head matchup, she's covered this in 5 of 7. But the 2 games this season, 4 rebounds in both of them. So if you're looking at a BAP, which is a bitch-ass parlay, you could reduce her lines down a little bit. Doesn't look too bad. If you look at home games, she's covered this in 3 out of 5 games at home. So it's not a bad look. I'll probably lean to the over in her rebounds, but probably run the points for Kahleah Copper here. Next up, we got Natasha Cloud. She can do it all. So Natasha Cloud, her points line, where are we at with that? 10.5. She's cashed this in 6 out of 12 games this season, averaging 11.3 points per game. 8 and 7 points in her last 2, though. In head-to-head matchups, she's covered this in 4 out of her last 5 against the Aces. 2 games this season, 14 and 11. The volume, it's not too bad, 15 and 10 in those games. This season, averaging 10 attempts. Only 38% from the field, though, so that's not nice. I've probably leaned to the over, but, if I'm really going to bet Copper, I'm not going to bet Cloud. If we take a look at her assists, 7.5 assists. Line is 5, and she's hit this in 5 out of 12, averaging 7.5. 2 games against the Aces this season, 7 and 10 assists, 2 out of 5 overall. If we just look at her home games, we can see Cloud, Dimer. So I do like this. This is a good correlation to Copper. So I don't mind the over for Natasha Cloud here at plus money. She's hit this in 4 out of 5 games at home. And if I refresh my memory in terms of the Aces, where they are in terms of assists allowed, middle of the pack, actually the 5th fewest, but there's 12 teams. So the matchup's not the greatest, but the over, it's not a bad look if she's going to be delivering at home. So yeah, Natasha Cloud, I can fuck with that for sure. So she's gone over this in only 5 games this season. 4 of those games were at home. So definite swing in terms of her assists at home compared to her assists on the road. So I don't mind that for Natasha Cloud. And the Aces, their defense is not great at the moment. And if Copper is going to make it rain, Natasha Cloud assists, I think that's a good look. Rebounds, 4.5 boards for Natasha Cloud. 6 out of 12, 4.7 as an average in head-to-head matchups. 3 out of 5, but the 2 games this season, 8 and 7 boards. So I know we looked at Copper's rebounds because the matchup is nice, but Natasha Cloud, she got that matchup, son. So I might look at the rebounds plus assists. I'm not too sure. We'll see where we land on Natasha Cloud. But what I'm saying is, I like it. All right, let's get to the queen, DT, Diana Taurasi. Let's talk about it. Her points line, 15.5. She's cashed this in 5 of 12 games this season. 16.5 as an average. Played the Aces 3 times. She's hit this in 1 of 3. If we look at her home games this season, she's cashed in 3 out of the 5 games at home. Yeah, the matchup's nice, but I'll probably have to lean with Copper in this one. So I'm not going to take all these guards for points. But it's not a bad look. If we look at her rebound line, though, it's at 4. She's been rebounding well as of late, last 3. So she's hit this in 7 of 12. If we look at home games, she's covered her rebound line in 4 out of 5 games. So that's a pretty good look. I think the issue that I have with it is in head-to-head matchups with the Aces, she's gone under in all 3, including the 2 games this season. So there's a reason not to bet it. There's a lot of reasons to bet it. But I think for rebounds and assists, I'll go with Natasha Cloud. In terms of points, I'm going to go with Copper. You heard the Wizard Sports fading Brittany Griner in this one. So I've got a good script in my mind, and I think I've got enough bets in this one already. But I do hope you guys enjoyed that. That was quite fun. I'm feeling quite confident rolling into this next day. Be sure to check out the Wizard Sports. I've got some of his info in the video description below. If you want to see the final plays that I'm on, check out my winnable. I'll put it all up there. Time to cash out, boys. I lost a couple of units on the NBA. We're going to make it all back on the WNBA. Let me know if you ride with me. Then also, quick shout out to everybody who put a comment in the last video on the ugliest NBA players I've ever seen. That gave me a bit of a laugh. Tyrone Hill, Sam Cassell. You guys are on the Hall of Fame of ugly motherfuckers. But for this video, let's not get too cryptic with it. Actually, let's do it. Since we're talking about the WNBA, put together the prettiest WNBA players you have ever seen in the history of the WNBA. Let me know in the comment section, and I'll get Google out, and we'll see whether I agree with you or not. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.